in the last session we saw how to print something in Python, and now let's try to do something a little more interesting. Let's say we want to write a very simple program that takes two numbers from the user, adds them up, and prints it out. So what will the flow be like? We'll basically ask the user to give me the first number. The user gives you the first number. Now when you ask for the second number, you need to store the first number somewhere. So, after you're done asking for the second number, you are able to add these two numbers. So these two numbers have to be stored somewhere. So we need to use storage. So for that storage in Python, we use something called variables. So these variables will be storages for us that we can use to store any kind of data that we want to use. So, what's going to happen? We'll ask the user to give me the first number, and the user will give us the first number. We'll make a storage to store that first number somewhere. Give that storage some name so that we can access it later. Then ask the user for the second number. Store that in some other storage. Give that storage a different name, and then do the addition and print that out to the user. So, that's something that we need to do. So we need to store data somewhere. That's what we call variables. So let's start right now. So let's start writing code for that. Let's start looking at how exactly. So, before we do that, in the Jupyter Notebook, one great thing is you have multiple cells. So, this one particular thing is called a cell. You can have multiple cells. So let me add a cell above here. If you want to create notes, you can create beautiful notes in Jupyter Notebook. So, I want this cell to be instead of code. I want this to become a markdown, and that just simply means that's basically some way of creating text, right? Like we have HTML, which basically lets you structure your text in some way. Similarly, we have markdown, which lets you structure your text in some way. So it has some syntax that basically means heading, but let's not worry about that. So this is what we have done. So, it was created like a note for us. Let's insert a cell below, and now we are starting with variables. And let's make this markdown as well. We could have made it heading as well. Let's insert a cell below. Now, let's look at variables. So if you want this variable to be a little bigger in size, you can basically do this. So if you give in size, you can basically do this. So, if you give hashes in front of it, treat it like a heading. So, let me just do that. So now you talk about variables. So we want to ask the user how to get a number. We don't know how to take input from the user yet. So, for now let's say that I want to add 10 and 20, so I want to have a storage which should contain 10. I should have another storage. It should contain 20, and then I want to add these two to get the result of that. So, the way to create storage is this simple. You just say A is equal to 10, and that creates a storage for you. You can access that storage using the name A, and that storage contains your data 10. So A is equal to that storage and contains your data 10. So, A is equal to 10. B is equals to B's. So, now I have two storages A and B now, which is a plus B. So let's run this, and it gives me the output. It gives me the output which is 30, which is the sum of the first to this two storages that we had. One thing that I want you to see is here, when I wanted to print hello, I had to say print in front of it. I didn't write print in front of a plus B, but it still printed 30. It still printed 30. Here when I wanted to print hello, I had to say print in front of it. But here I didn't do anything. I didn't say print in front of it, but still saying peace. So there is a difference. Let me show you what this is the output of second difference. Let me show you what this is the output of second cell. Whatever is the second cell, it's the output of that. So, whatever you run from this is the output that you got. So this is not what got printed. This is just the output that it is showing. It's just the output that it is showing. So for example, here if I put a text here, and in the end the last line that you write, whatever is the result of that last line, that is the output of that particular cell. So, if I do this, then what are you seeing of that particular cell? So, if I do this, then what are you seeing here? These two hellos got printed, but the output of the cell is 10. So, what is this number 3? So, this represents how many times you have executed your sum code here. So, first of all, we executed print hello. So, it was showing 1. Then, I executed this, so it was showing 2. Then, I executed this again, and it started showing 3. So for example, if I execute it again, it's showing 4 again, 5 again, 6 now. If I go to the other cell and print enter, it'll show 7, 8 and so on. So, what I'm trying to tell you is there are two ways something gets printed. Here one, you use the print command to print something or whatever is the last line. The output of that, the result of that is also getting printed as the output of this particular cell. So that's there as well. Perfect. So we have created two storages A and B. If you want, you can store this result of this in another storage, which is sum is equals to a plus B. So we have created another storage, and then if you want, you can print the sum and it's printing. That's another interesting point. Here did not say print sum, I just said print sum. So the print command, if you want to print a string like some text, then you need to put that within a single quote or double quote. But if you want to print storage, you can simply say what is the difference between these two. This will print sum for you. It will basically write sum. This will print the value inside sum, the value inside the storage sum. So, I'm able to print sum, but if I say, why don't you print sum 1? Or let's say ABC, then it's going to give you an error because ABC is not a storage. So, it's saying ABC is not defined. ABC is not a storage if I had ABC as a storage. So, I have created another storage variable for me which has 10 value. Now, it's going to work fine because it's saying that ABC is basically another storage. So, you don't have to put a single quote or double quote around it, and that's going to print just the string sum for you. Just the print sum for you. So that's how you can create variables and you can assign some values to them. You can access the value later on. I assigned 10 to A and then I was able to access a later on. So that's absolutely fine. Just one thing that I want you to see is how to name variables. What are the possible names that we can give to variables? So my variables can have anything, any character which is either lowercase, so A, B, C, D, any of these characters. It can be uppercase, capital A, capital B, capital C, capital D, and so on. It can be digit, so 0 to 9. It can be underscore as well. So for example, it is absolutely fine. ABC8 is absolutely fine. Ab underscore C1 is also absolutely fine. That's a variable because it contains lowercase characters, digit, and an underscore. The only restriction is you cannot start a variable name with a digit. The variable name has to start with an uppercase, lowercase, or an underscore. Starting with underscore is absolutely fine. That's the only rule that you need to follow, that you cannot start with a digit. This is an error. So now we know how to create variables. We know how to access them later. And we know how we can name them as well. In the next session, we will start looking at how exactly this data is stored. How exactly are we storing this data in the variables? Thank you.